day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Betwabu, Betwabu. Remember, Betwabu means what? House of the Father. It's a greeting that our Bantu, or the house of David, Dawidi, King David, our people. It's a greeting amongst one another, recognizing that I am the house of the Father and you are the house of the Father. So Betwabu, Betwabu, Betwabu Titi, Betwabu Yaya. Y'all, I'm excited about today's reading. Yay! We are in First Esdras, or better known as Third Ezra. All right, so today you won't see me with my faithful friend here, the little purple book, which is my King James Version Bible that I've had for a very, very long time. You know, she's very, very well worn. Okay, so, but if you were here the first time we read through, I was reading from the Sefer. So, and you'll notice in the morning, I'll open this up if y'all haven't realized. I have been opening up my Sefer and setting my King James Version on top of it. The only particular reason was it just made it higher so it's closer to my face. So now you won't see the little purple book for about almost 2 weeks, because we are going to be reading right from the Sefer, because the Sefer has Third Ezra and Fourth Ezra. So if you got a Sefer, or even if you got a copy of this, Apocrypha, whatever, go get it. Go get it. We're about to start. Yes. So Third Ezra, we'll be doing the same thing. 3 chapters. Now this first chapter it's pretty long. I mean, it ain't as long as some of the other ones, but it is 58 verses. Chapter 2, 31 verses, and chapter 3 is 24 verses. So we're gonna get right to it, y'all. So this picks up with Nehemiah and everything. Remember, Ezra, Nehemiah, Third Ezra, and Fourth Ezra is all one book. It should have been kept together. In the Sefer, they put it back together. All right, y'all. Okay, so let's start. And I'm gonna change out some of the names. Some people, when they listen to it, they may not. Some I'm gonna read it as it's in here, but like when it says King Shlomo, we know that's King Solomon. So I just say King Solomon for those who are not familiar with their actual. And it's still, I don't think it's the actual name, because the real names are Bantu names. These are still kind of like Yiddish, so to speak. Yeah, it is. But I'm going to say the name that we're most familiar with. I'll say what they have in here. Like Yerushalayim is Jerusalem. You know, so I'll just say Jerusalem. All right, y'all. So, Third Ezra, first chapter. And Yoshiyahu, which is King Josiah. So I'll say Josiah from now on. And Yoshiyahu held the feast of Pesach. Pesach is Passover. In Jerusalem unto his Adonai, but unto Yahuwah, and offered the Pesach on the 14th day of the first month, having set the priests according to their daily courses, being arrayed in long garments in the temple of Yahuwah. And he spoke unto the Levites, the holy ministers of Yasharal. Remember, Yasharal is Israel, so I'll say Israel. That they should hallow themselves unto Yahuwah, and set the holy ark of Yahuwah in the house that King Solomon the son of David had built, and said, Ye shall no more bear the ark upon your shoulders. Now therefore serve Yahuwah Elohim, and minister unto his people Israel, and prepare you after your families and kindreds, according as David the king of Israel prescribed, and according to the magnificence of Solomon his son, and standing in a temple according to the several dignity of the families of the Levites who minister in the presence of your brethren, the children of Israel. Offer the Passover in order. Make ready the sacrifices for your brethren, and keep the Passover according to the commandment of Yahuwah, which was given unto Moses. And unto the people that was found there, Josiah gave 30,000 lambs and kids, and 3,000 calves. These things were given of the king's allowance, according as he promised to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. And if you actually remember when we were reading this in Chronicles, Josiah was in Chronicles. You should remember this, because it's given some of the same stuff, and some of the stuff is almost word for word. Yeah, some of it is literally almost word for word. And unto the people that was found there, Josiah gave 30,000 lambs and kids, and 3,000 calves. These things were given of the king's allowance, according as he promised to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. And Kilkiyahu, Zechariah, or Kilkiyahu is Hilkiah. Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Yael, the governors of the temple, gave to the priests for the Passover offerings 2,600 sheep and 3,000 calves. And Jeconiah and Shemiyahu and Nathanael, his brother, and Kavis Yahu. And look, the ones that I don't remember, I'm just going to read it how I say it in here. Some of them I remember, some of them I don't. And Yael and Joram, captains over thousands, gave to the Levites for the Passover offerings 5,000 sheep, 700 calves. And when these things were done, the priests and the Levites, having the matzah, or the unleavened bread, or some versions actually say sweet bread, but it's the same thing. It's talking about the bread that's made without yeast, stood in very comely order according to the kindreds and according to the several dignities of the fathers before the people, to offer to Yahuwah as it is written in the Sefer of Moses. And thus they did in the morning. And they roasted the Pesach with fire as appertains. As for the sacrifices, they sawed them in brass pots and pans with good savor, and set them before all the people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests and the brethren, the sons of Aaron. So there was very specific instructions about the Passover lamb and what they were to do with it. And if you remember this Passover, we kind of talked about it because some of us almost did it. You're not supposed to boil the lamb, the Passover lamb. Anything else you can boil, do it, or whatever. But he says specifically for the Passover lamb, you are to roast it over fire. All right. You know how sometimes we like to throw things in crock pots and, add all the savory stuff to it. He said, don't do that to the Passover lamb. He said, roast it over fire. For the priests offered the fat unto night, and the Levites prepared for themselves, and the priests their brethren, the sons of Aaron. The holy singers also, the sons of Asaph, were in their order according to the appointment of David, to wit, Asaph, Zechariah, Jeduthun, who was of the king's retinue. Moreover, the porters were at every gate. It is against the Torah for any of them to go from his ordinary service, for their brethren, the Levites, prepared for them. So those who were standing watch on that day, just think about it, if you were in the military, you can't, if everybody else is enjoying holiday, we still have soldiers on watch. So those who were supposed to be on watch at that time were to still stay on watch. But don't worry about it. We got you. We got the priests preparing your portion as well. So continue staying on watch. You cannot negate your duties, So for that particular office, the watchmen are to stand watch at all times. And the Levites will prepare for them so that when they get off watch or whatever, or we'll take care of you while you're there, but you continue watching. Moreover, the porters were at every gate. It was against Torah for any to go from his ordinary service, for their brethren, the Levites, prepared for them. Thus were the things that belonged to the sacrifices of Yahuwah accomplished in that day, that they might hold the Passover, and offer sacrifices upon the altar of Yahuwah according to the commandment of King Josiah. So the children of Israel, which were present, held the Passover at that time, and the feast of sweet bread 7 days. See, right here it says the feast of sweet bread, but it's also, we know it by a feast of unleavened bread. It's bread that has not been soured with yeast. And such a Pesach, or such a Passover, was not kept in Israel since the time of the prophet Samuel. Yea, all the kings of Israel held not such a Passover as Josiah and the priests and the Levites and the Israelites held with all of Israel that were found dwelling in Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept, and the works of Josiah were upright before Yahuwah with a heart full of holiness. As for the things that came to pass in his time, they were written in former times concerning those that sinned and did wickedly against Yahuwah, above all people and kingdoms, and how they grieved him exceedingly, so that the words of Yahuwah rose up against Israel. Now after all these acts of Josiah, it came to pass that Pharaoh, the king of Israel, came to raise war at Carchemish upon Pereth, and Josiah went out against him. But the king of Mitzrayim sent to him, saying, What have I to do with you, O king of Yehuda, O king of Judah? Remember this? Remember when King Josiah, he came up against the king, he said, Listen, y'all sent me out against them, not against you. Don't come up here because I don't want to have a fight against you. You're going to find yourself fighting against y'all. Remember, and Josiah disguised himself. I'm like, come on, king. But the king of But the king of Egypt, or Mitzrayim, sent unto him, saying, What have I to do with you, O king of Yehuda, O king of Judah? I am not sent out from Yahuwah Elohim against you, for my war is upon Perath, and now Yahuwah is with me. Yea, Yahuwah is with me. Hasten me forward. Depart from me, and be not against Yahuwah. Like he talked to him, he said, King, go home. Don't do this. Howbeit, Josiah did not turn back his chariot from him, but undertook to fight with him, not regarding the words of prophet Jeremiah spoken by the mouth of Yahuwah, but joined the battle with him in the plain of Megiddo. And the princes came against King Josiah. Then said the king unto his servants, Carry me away out of the battle, for I am very weak. And immediately his servants took him away out of the battle. Then got he up upon the second chariot, and being brought back to Jerusalem, died, and was buried in his father's sepulchre. And in all of Judah they mourned for Josiah. Yea, Jeremiah the prophet lamented for Josiah. And the chief men with the women made lamentation for him unto this day. And this was given out for an ordinance to be done continually in all the nation of Israel. These things are written in the Sefer of the stories of the kings of Judah, and every one of the acts of Josiah did, and every one of the acts that Josiah did, and his glory, and his understanding, and the Torah of Yahuwah, and the things that he had done before, and the things now recited are reported in the Sefer of the kings of Israel and Judah. And the people took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king instead of Josiah his father, when he was 23 years old. And he reigned in Judah and in Jerusalem 3 months. And then the king of Mitzrayim, or the king of Egypt, deposed him from reigning in Jerusalem. And he set a tax upon the land of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. And the king of Egypt also made King Jehoiakim and his brother King, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the name. King Jehoiakim, his brother, king of Judah and Jerusalem. And he bound Jehoiakim and the nobles, but Zarachis, his brother, he apprehended and brought him out of Mitzrayim, or out of Egypt. 25 years old was Jehoiakim when he was made king in the land of Judah and Jerusalem, and he did evil before Yahuwah. See this? They even talking about it here. The different kings that come up, if they weren't righteous, it said, and they did evil before Yahuwah. Wherefore against him Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, came up and bound him with a chain of brass and carried him into Babel. Nebuchadnezzar also took the holy vessels of Yahuwah and carried them away and set them in his own temple at Babel. We remember reading this in Chronicles, and also in Chronicles. And Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead, and he was made king, being 18 years old, and reigned but 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did evil before Yahuwah. So after a year, Nebuchadnezzar sent and caused him to be brought into Babel with the holy vessels of Yahuwah, and made Sidkiyahu king of Judah and Jerusalem. And he was 21 years old, and he reigned 11 years. And he did evil also in the sight of Yahuwah, and cared not for the words that were spoken unto him by the prophet Jeremiah from the mouth of Yahuwah. And after that King Nebuchadnezzar had made him to swear by the name of Yahuwah, he forswear himself and rebelled, and hardening his neck, his heart, he transgressed the Torah of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. The governors also of the people and of the priests did many things against Torah, and passed all the pollutions of all nations, and defiled the temple of Yahuwah, which was sanctified in Jerusalem. I don't know, Alicia, I don't know why you didn't get a notification, but Betwabu. I don't know. Facebook be doing its own thing, but it's recorded. We're in 3rd Ezra, chapter 1, verse 50. Nevertheless, the Elohim of their fathers sent by his messenger to call them back, because he spared them in his tabernacle also. But they had his messengers in derision, and look, when Yahuwah spoke unto them, they made sport of his prophets. See, it's the same thing. It's reading just like Chronicles and Kings read. So if you're familiar with that, you can pick up which books, like some of the books that they have out there that may not be a part of the Apocrypha. But nevertheless, there are real letters that were written. you can tell because of the way it flows and the way it speaks. And some of them, it's like, who in the world wrote this? Like there's no consistency through it. It's just, you can tell somebody else completely. They're not even familiar with the way that the prophets write, because it's really, I don't know, because I read it so much. It's easy for me, for most of them that I've read so far, to pick out, no, nobody from Israel wrote that, so. But look, but they had his messengers in derision, and look, when Yahuwah spoke unto them, they made a sport of his prophets. So far forth, that he, being wroth with his people for their great wickedness, commanded the kings of the Kasdim to come up against them, who slew their young men with the sword, yea, even with the compass of their holy temple, and spared neither man nor maid, nor old man or child among them, for he delivered all into their hands. And they took all the holy vessels of Yahuwah, both great and small, with the vessels of the ark of Yahuwah, and the king's treasures, and carried them away unto Babel. As for the house of Yahuwah, they burn it, and break down the walls of Jerusalem, and set fire upon her towers. And as for her glorious things, they never ceased till they had consumed and brought them all to naught. And the people that were not slain with the sword he carried to Babel, and became servants to him and his children, till all the Persians reigned, till the Persians reigned, to fulfill the word of Yahuwah spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. The whole time of her desolation shall she rest, until the full term of 70 years. Remember, we also learned about the 70 years because Daniel, although he served in the king's court, they were still in captivity, and he was awakened to the words of prophet Jeremiah at the end of the 70 years of the captivity, which is also spoken about here. Now, I probably would not be able to pick up on this if I hadn't read the other one so much, but because I read them, and we're in chapter 2 now, Alicia, 3rd Ezra chapter 2. I'm about to start chapter 2 now. But I'm able to put the story together. I'm like, oh, wait, they talked about this here. Then I go back and just double check. I'm like, oh, yeah, this goes together. Okay, this is a continuation of this that they're telling over here, and add more detail to it over here. Okay, so chapter 2, 3rd Ezra. In the first year of Koresh, king of the Persians, and Koresh is King Cyrus. So in the first year of Cyrus, king of the Persians, the word of Yahuwah might be accomplished, that he held promise by the mouth of Jeremiah, Yahuwah raised up the spirit of Cyrus, the king of the Persians, and he made a proclamation through all his kingdom, and also by the writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of the Persians, Yahuwah of Israel, El Elyon, Yahuwah has made me king of the whole world, and commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem in Judah. If therefore there be any of you that are his people, let Yahuwah, even his Adonai, be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem that is in Judah, and build the house of Yahuwah of Israel, for he is Yahuwah that dwells in Jerusalem. Remember when King Cyrus did this? Remember we just read in Nehemiah? This was when Nehemiah was the one that went up. King Cyrus took rule. He said, anybody, remember Nehemiah? We just read this. See how all this goes together? If you don't, go back and reread it or listen to it. I'm telling you, it goes together like a perfect puzzle. All right. Verse 5. If therefore there be any of you that are his people, let Yahuwah, even his Adonai, be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem that is in Judah, and build the house of Yahuwah of Israel, for he is Yahuwah that dwells in Jerusalem. Whosoever then dwells in the places about, let them help him. Those, I say, that are his neighbors, with gold and with silver, with gifts, with horses, and with cattle, and other things which have been set forth by vow for the temple of Yahuwah at Jerusalem. Then the chief of the families of Judah and of the tribe of Benjamin stood up, the priests also, and the Levites, and all they who mind Yahuwah had moved to go up and to build a house for Yahuwah at Jerusalem. Remember how I keep telling y'all, those who were sent into captivity, even now today, when the kingdoms had split, it was always Judah, Benjamin, and the Levites together. This further confirms that. He calls out Benjamin and the Levites and Judah right here that I just read. I'll read verse 8 again. Then the chief of the families of Judah and of the tribe of Benjamin stood up, the priests also and the Levites. He just called all three, Judah, Benjamin, the priests and the Levites. The priests were Levites. They are of the tribe of Levi. And all they who mind Yahuwah had moved to go up and to build a house for Yahuwah at Jerusalem. And they dwelt round about them and helped them in all things with silver and gold, with horses and cattle, and with very many free gifts of a great number whose minds were stirred up thereto. And King Cyrus also brought forth the holy vessels which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem, and they set up in his temple of idols. Now when Cyrus, the king of the Persians, had brought them forth, he delivered them to Mithridath, his treasurer, and by him they were delivered to I forget who this was, Shashbatsar, the governor of Judah. And this was the number of them: 1,000 golden cups, and 1,000 of silver censers of silver 29, vials of gold 30, and of silver 2,410, and 1,000 other vessels. So all the vessels of gold and of silver which were carried away were 5,469. These were brought back by Sheshbatsar, together with them of the captivity from Babel to Jerusalem. But in the time of Artaxerxes, king of the Persians, Bishlam and Mithridath and Tavael and Rechum and Belteam and Shimshai, the secretary, with others that were in commission with them, dwelling in Shamaron and other places, wrote unto him again against them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, the Sepharim following: To the king Artaxerxes, our Lord, your servants, Rechum the story writer, and Shimshai the scribe, and the rest of their council, and the judges that are in Silo, Aram, and Phoenicia. Be it known to the Lord King that the Israelites that are up from us, that are from you to us, being come in Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city, do build the marketplaces and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundation of the temple. You know what this sound like? Tobiah and who's the other one? Remember we read about they was writing letters. These are the same people. I just didn't match the names to what we read in the King James Version. But it's them. They writing the letters. They trying to come rebuild this wicked and rebellious city. Remember we talked about that a few days ago. Betswabu, Nikki, Betswabu, Tara. To the king Artaxerxes, our Lord, your servants Rehum the story writer, and Shimshai the scribe, and the rest of their council, and the judges that are in Silo, Aram, and Phoenicia. Be it known to the Lord King that the Israelites that are up from you to us, being coming to Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city, do build the marketplaces and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundations of the temple. Girl, stop. Now, if this city and the walls thereof be made up again, they will not only refuse to give tribute, but also rebel against the kings. Remember what I told you? I said they're gonna stop paying taxes and stuff, and this is not gonna be good for the kings that are ruling now. And for as much as the things pertaining to the temple are now in hand, we think it meet not to neglect such a matter, but to speak unto our Lord the King, to the intent that if it be your pleasure, it may be sought out in the Sepharim of your fathers. Remember, it's the same thing he told him. He said, go back and check in what the kings previously wrote about this. And so there were a couple things written. They wrote that it was a rebellious city. That's there. But remember, later on, when they stopped them from building for a while, they said, listen, you need to go back and read what the last king wrote, what King Cyrus wrote. When King Artaxerxes was ruling, King Cyrus was before him. He said, go back and read what King Cyrus wrote last about this. And he said, it is approved by Yah. But speak unto our Lord the King, to the intent that if it be your pleasure, it may be sought out in the Sepharim of your fathers, or in the scrolls of the books. Go back and look what they wrote. And you shall find in the chronicles that it is written concerning these things, and shall understand that the city was rebellious, troubling both kings and cities, and that the Israelites were rebellious and raised always wars therein, for the cause even this city was made desolate. Wherefore now we do declare unto you, O Lord the King, that if this city be built again, and the walls thereof set up anew, you shall from henceforth have no passage into Silo, Aram, and Phoenicia. And then the king wrote back again to Rehum the story writer, to Belteam, to Shimshai the scribe, and to the rest that were in commission, and the dwellers in Shamaron and Aram and Phoenicia after this matter. I have read the Sefer which ye have sent unto me. Therefore I commanded to make diligent search, and it has been found that the city was from the beginning practicing against kings, and the men therein were given to rebellion and war, that mighty kings and fierce were in Jerusalem, who reigned and exacted tributes in Silo, Aram, and Phoenicia. Now therefore I have commanded to hinder those men from building the city, and heed to be taken that there be no more done in it, and that those wicked workers proceed no further to the annoyance of the kings. Then King Artaxerxes, his Sepharim being read, Rahum and Shimshai the scribe, and the rest that were in commission with them, removing in haste toward Jerusalem with a troop of horsemen and a multitude of people in battle array, and began to hinder the builders, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem ceased until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, the king of the Persians. Remember, we read that in Nehemiah? Same thing. They're just giving a little bit more detail. So we know that this is a valid book. When I'm going to just make this real quick note, and you probably already noticed, a lot of people who have not researched and understand that the Apocrypha, and I hate that it was given that name. Apocrypha means hidden, like hidden books of wisdom or whatever. But when they put like scary titles on stuff, they say, and the early church fathers, they say, oh no, don't read that. You're forbidden to read that, because they made the people believe that this had nothing to do with anything that was in the rest of the book. But you will find out as you get those pieces and you put them back together, it makes a clear picture of what was done, and it helps you to further recognize who the people are. Think about it. Why do you think, even now with some of our men who have been murdered in the streets by cops and people of other nations, and even all throughout the years, how they treat us like animals, like we're always armed and stuff? You got to think about it. Israel was an army. It was a fierce army. That's why they write in these letters. They were afraid of us, not because of us, but because of the God who backed us. We are his people. So now, during this time, and some of the descendants of the people here today that's still killing our people, they are none the wiser to what's about to happen. And when Yahuwah stands up, this time of captivity is up, and a lot of people do not know what's going on because of all the shenanigans and all the religious rigmarole that they put around our history book, and people just kind of throw it all away like, oh, it's just like it's another book. No, this is our history book, and it also tells us the history of our people and what happens and what's going to happen for us at the end of this captivity. Because when our prophet spoke, Yahuwah said, I share everything with the Bana Betu, the children of Israel, with my prophets, with the Nabi. I share everything with them. That way, my people will know that I am faithful to them, and what I say will come to pass. So, that's just a side note, because the fear of all the earth was upon Israel, was upon our people, because of who we were. So that's why it's like, shoot first, ask questions later, because, we're peaceable people, but like I said, look, girl, we ain't gonna start this morning, stop. But this is why. And if you're paying attention, you will see this all through, and it'll begin to click. And just look at, like I said, look at the current history and how they just automatically, oh no, I fear for my life. I'm like, you ain't begun to fear for your life yet, because Yahuwah, there is, for those of us returning to Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commands, we see this power in our lives in small stages. But when all of Israel, when all the rest of the remnant begins waking up and realizing that our power comes from keeping Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commands, when they begin to see that, like when I saw, that's what I'm telling y'all, you must. They do everything to tell us this is done away with. Do not look back there, because the power is here for Israel. We are not like all the other nations. This teaches us. That's why it was scattered everywhere. We were scattered and translated in all the languages where we were scattered throughout the earth. Granted, they added stuff to it, but when Israel begins to read the Torah, Yahuwah opens our eyes and we're able to pick through the leaven and pull out exactly all the commands that he wrote to us, and we began to keep them again. And we began to see things happen in our life. It was like, wait a minute. And I'm telling you, you must return. Israel must return to Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments, because he said, ain't nobody going to fight for you but me. Ain't nobody going to fight for you but me. And when we realize that all this marching and stuff that we doing out here in these peaceful protests is going to get us nowhere, but those of us who are returning, we're seeing some stuff happen. Like they just arrested the two guys that murdered Ahmaud Arbery. Let me tell you something. If Israel doesn't begin to return to Yah, like all this out here, we have another way we can get things handled here in this land, in this court system. By us, we have a direct connection to Yah. And other people can turn to him, but there is something special about Israel when we go back and keep the law, because this is us. This is what guides us. This is what leads us. This is what gives Israel power. A lot of other nations don't get the power that we get. It belongs to the sons and to the daughters. And when we go back to that, we see things happen. So if we want to see true justice happen here in this land, we must speak judgment with our mouths. Talk to Yah, and Yah will cause it to happen here. I'm telling you, it's starting to happen, y'all. And it's a lot of us, they still being rebellious out here. And we're about to see a lot of things begin to happen, just like when Yahuwah brought them out of Egypt, and all the signs and wonders and miracles and things that he allowed to happen, not just to let Egypt know and the other nations around, but to also let his people know, because he constantly talked about it. He said, what other God has performed these type of miracles? I did these so you could see them and so you could pass it down to your children. And when your children ask about this, you tell them this is what Yah did for us. It keeps building our faith, and it keeps us focused on him, knowing that he's our deliverer. He is our savior. There is no other savior on this earth for Israel except for Yahuwah alone. Nobody else. Get rid of all the other gods and all the other names. He said you are not to even speak the name of any other God upon your lips. So when you hear me say like JC, stuff like that, he said it's not even to be spoken on the lips of my people. So that's why I do that. But for people who may not know, I'll kind of, and sometimes I'll say it so you can get it, because you may not be familiar with what he's told us. So I'll do that to kind of point you to it so you can understand we're not even to speak those names off of our lips, because they are not our gods. Yahuwah is our God, the one and only true living God of the earth, of heaven, who rules in the kingdom of men. All right, that's it. Last chapter for today, 3rd Ezra chapter 3. Now when Darius reigned, he made a great feast unto all his subjects, and unto all his household, and unto all the princes of Madai and Persia, and unto all the governors and captains and lieutenants that were under him, from India unto Cush, of 127 provinces. And when they had eaten and drunk and being satisfied, were going home, then Darius the king went into his bedchamber and slept, and soon after awoke. Then 3 young men that were of the guard that kept the king's body spoke to one another, Let every one of us speak a sentence. He that shall overcome, and whose sentence shall seem wiser than the others, unto him shall the king Darius give great gifts and great things in token of victory, as to be clothed in purple, to drink in gold, and to sleep upon gold, and a chariot with bridles of gold, and a head tire of fine linen, and a chain about his neck. And he shall sit next to Darius because of his wisdom, and shall be called Darius his cousin. What does it say? Dariavesh, his cousin. And then everyone wrote his sentence, sealed it, and put it under the pillow of King Darius, and said that when the king is risen, some will give him the writings, and of whose side the king and of the 3 princes of Persia shall judge, that his sentence is the wisest. To him shall the victory be given, and was appointed. So they pretty much say, okay, everybody write a wise saying, give it to the king, whoever the king chooses or whatever, this is the wisest one. So it's like they playing a game, y'all. The first wrote, wine is the strongest, The second wrote, the king is the strongest. The third wrote, women are the strongest, but above all things, truth bears away the victory. Now, when the king was risen up, they took their writings and delivered them unto him. So he read them. And sending forth, he called all the princes of Persia and Madai, and the governors, and the captains, and the lieutenants, and the chief officers, and sat down in the royal seat of judgment. And the writings were read before them. And he said, call the young men. What was that? Oh, I think that was that top out there. And set him down in the royal seat of judgment, and the writings were read before them. And he said, call the young men, and they shall declare their own sentences. So they were called and came in. And he said unto them, declare unto us your mind concerning the writings. Then began the first, who had spoken of the strength of wine. And he said thus, O ye men, how exceeding strong is wine! It causes all men to err that drink it. It makes the mind of the king and of the fatherless child to be all one, of the bondman and of the free man, of the poor man and of the rich. It turns also every thought into jollity and mirth, so that a man remembers neither sorrow nor debt. And it makes every heart rich, so that a man remembers neither king nor governor. And it makes to speak all things by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget they love both to friends and brethren, and a little after draw out swords. Let me read that again. And it makes every heart rich, so that a man remembers neither king nor governor, and it makes to speak all things by talents. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love both to friends and brethren, and a little after draws out swords. Like, when think about a drunk man, it's like they become violent and they forget that these are loved ones and these are friends, and they turn against them. Think about how drunk people get if they're rowdy. You got different types of drunks. You got those that get rowdy and they're ready to fight everybody, and then you got some that's just laid back and they just go to sleep, you know. I read that again. And when they are in their cups, they forget their love both to friends and brethren, and a little after draw out swords. But when they are from the wine, they remember not what they have done. O ye men, is not wine the strongest that enforces to do thus? And when he had spoken, he held his peace. And I know this is a terrible place to cut off the reading for today, because this was just the first one. So we won't really find out which is the strongest until tomorrow, because beautiful people, that is the end of our reading for today. That was Ezra. Stop. That was 3rd Ezra, chapter 1, 2, and 3. And we'll find this out tomorrow, because we're going to get, and if you're curious, you can go ahead and read ahead, but tomorrow we'll find out which is the strongest, you know. So it'll be some good reading to do today. But with that being said, like I said, that was 3rd Ezra, 1, 2, and 3, also called 2nd Esdras, 1, 2, and 3. So, but y'all, it is Saturday, May the 9th, 2020, day 141. And I don't think I said that at the beginning, but it's today. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. What I will do is go back to my King James and do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, y'all. Verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah bless us and keep us. Yahuwah make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scratch your tootie. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. I'm sorry, tootie, I didn't mean to scratch it. All right, beautiful people, I love y'all, and I will see you bright and early in the morning. Peace. Go ahead. Press the button, girl. Press the button.